Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what part of the world you're connecting from. My name is Dr. Lanre Phillips, and I'm responsible for education in Central and West Africa for one of the greatest companies to work with in the world, and that's HP. I'd like to start by thanking the organizers of HexCon 21. They've invited me to speak on the topic, creating opportunity in a world of limitations. I'll take that again, creating opportunity in a world of limitations. I'm resident in Nigeria, a country in the western part of Africa. And one of the things that I've realized is, and this has to do with everybody in the world, by the way, is every day we wake up, all we're trying to do is to bring expectations as close as possible to reality. So on a daily basis, we wake up and we have expectations. We have expectations for that day, we have for that week, we have for that month, we probably even have expectations for the year. These expectations hardly ever become our reality. So everything that we do on a daily basis between expectation and reality is what makes life happen. Okay, life falls between expectation and reality. On a daily basis, all we're trying to do is to bring expectations as close as possible to reality. I'll start off with a story about the happiest day in my life. The happiest day in my life was a day in the year 1983. I was in primary 6 then, what is probably 6th grade. We stayed on the second floor of a 2-story building somewhere in Lagos, somewhere in Surulere, Lagos, West Africa. And I'm the first of 5 boys. My dad had gone out in the morning with a different car and then came back with a brand new car. I'm talking about a car called Peugeot 504 SR. This was the most beautiful car I had seen in my life. This was in the year 1983, remember? The car didn't have a cartridge player. The car had a cassette player. The car had 4 headrests. The car had air conditioning system. The car did not have the gear by the side of the steering. The car had the gear down there. The car had a clutch, a brake, and an accelerator. When Daddy put the car on in the morning and the car was warming up before he left, we would go behind, and from the exhaust, we will see water drop out of the car. The car was brown interior and it had a brownish gold exterior. The smell of the inside of the car was to die for. And I loved this car because it was so beautiful. Because of this car, I made new friends in the environment. People would come around to my house to come and dance around the car as children. Because of this car, after school, when we went to the fields to play football, people would choose me as the captain of the football team, despite the fact that I didn't know how to play football. Boys in the neighborhood would bring me sweets, chocolates, biscuits, gum, just because they wanted to be my friend. I had become the new kid on the block in Surulere, Lagos, Nigeria, West Africa. And all of this continued for a long time. Because of this car, friends, I would deliberately stay at home and be late to school, so that by the time Daddy drops me in school, I'll come down from the car with my knapsack and I'll have that 1-minute walk of fame to the assembly hall where other children would have been gathered. Despite the fact that I was going to get spanked, I enjoyed the walk of fame. Because of this car, in the morning before we wake up, the boys in the neighborhood will have come to wash the car. So Daddy went to work every day with a neatly washed car, not by us, not by the 5 boys that I had, but people in the neighborhood. Like I said, everybody in the neighborhood loved this car. And I enjoyed all of that privilege. Did I tell you the plate number of the car? It was LA315BD. It took us a whole week to take off all of the nylon protective cover on the seats of the car. So Daddy would go to work on a Monday and come back, we'll take off the one of one seat. He would go to work on a Tuesday, come back, take off the one of one seat. That was how beautiful the car was, friends. And I enjoyed all of this privilege up until one day, a few months later. As a matter of fact, the man stayed 2 streets from us, and his son also was attending the same school that I was attending. Very painful day for me. Very, very, very painful day. And what had happened, this man had bought a new car. Ironically, he bought the same color with my father's car. And this man had bought a Mercedes-Benz V-Boot 200, a much nicer car than my father's car. And you can tell that my voice is even breaking. Every time I think about that story, it hurts me. Because all of a sudden, I stopped being the numero uno in the neighborhood. All of a sudden, all of the people that used to give me sweets and biscuits and chocolate bars disappeared. All of a sudden, nobody was inviting me to come be the captain of the football team anymore. All of a sudden, nobody was coming around to wash my father's car anymore. Okay? And why am I sharing you this story? I'm sharing this story with you because we need to understand that change is constant. Okay? And nothing would stay the same. Fast forward to close to 40 years later today. Okay? And we're having several different types of cars these days. Okay? There's a Lamborghini, there's the Mercedes-Benz, G-Wagon, to name a few. And if you were to compare, okay, between my father's LA 315BD 504 SR Peugeot and the Bugattis of today, for instance, the only thing that has changed, friends, is the packaging. Okay, that is the summary of everything that has changed. Okay, so as we go from day to day, we need to realize that we need to repackage. And why do we need to repackage? We need to repackage because change is constant. Okay. If we have accepted that change is constant, let me share with you, friends, how we've been told that people move, okay, when change happens. Let's take a look at the steps that people go through when change happens. Okay, we're told that the first step is immobilization. Okay, the second step is denial. The third step is anger. The fourth step is bargaining. The fifth step is depression, and then it leads to exploring, and then it leads to acceptance. I went through all of these 7 steps, friends, when I lost my dad a few years back. Okay, but I discovered that for some of my brothers, okay, the timing between the immobilization and the acceptance was a lot shorter than mine. Maybe because I was a lot closer to my dad than them. But I suddenly also realized that if we bring this back to business and if we bring this back to all real life world scenarios, the shorter the time between immobilization and acceptance, the nicer for us, since we have already agreed, okay, that change is constant. Okay. So acceptance is the new reality, friends. Every time that there's a change, try and move from immobilization to acceptance as fast as possible. This is 2021, friends, and some of the things that we learned way back, okay, several years ago, are turning out to be different now. Friends, I speak the truth. For me, que sera is no longer sera. Even the economics principles we learned in school, like ceteris paribus, ceteris for me is no longer paribus. Okay, the anchor of opportunity every time there's a limitation, friends, is knowledge. And I'm going to share with you 3 areas that I think knowledge is very essential, especially for entrepreneurs. So the first K, I term it knowledge of your environment. So as an entrepreneur, there's a way your environment behaves. Back home in Nigeria where I live, especially in the city of Abuja where I live, there's a way the town behaves from the 25th of a particular month till the 3rd or 4th thereabout of the next month. And that's because salary gets paid about that period. Lounges are full, restaurants are full, playgrounds, you see happier kids. Generally, people have better smiles on their faces. Why? Because salaries for the month have been paid about that period. Okay, entrepreneurs need to understand the growth pattern in their sales. Okay, so in Abuja where I live, a lot of people tell me that a lot more sales happen between that period. Okay, there's a way in this part of the world where I live as well, government remains the largest spender. So as entrepreneurs, we need to understand the direction of government spending. If you are a tailor, for instance, and government has pledged to spend half of its budget on agriculture, you had better start to think about how to start making farm robes. Okay. The second key that I want to talk to you about, and This is a pretty funny one, is know your business. It sounds cliche, right? A lot of people want to tell you several times that you don't know your business. But that's the reality, because your business is not what it seems. Okay? In the last 5 years, I've discovered that not all restaurants sell food. I've discovered that not all schools sell education. As a matter of fact, back home in Nigeria, if you run a laundry service, the minute you start to go gather your customers' clothes, take them to the laundry, and then deliver them back to your customer, you're no longer running a laundry service, friend. You're running a logistics company. The model to run a logistics company is different from the model to run a laundry service. And I say this in all seriousness because when my family relocated and we were to look for school for my kids, this is how the discussion between myself and the principal of these schools went. So, good afternoon, principal. How are you doing? I'm doing fine. Principal, please, could you show me the playground of the kids? So, principal shows me the playground. Nice, lush green grass. Oh, beautiful. Principal, could you show me the sick bay? Principal takes me to the sick bay. Nicely equipped, nice first aid box. Principal, could you show me the school bus? Principal takes me to the school bus. Well-dressed driver. Air-conditioned school bus. Good. Principal, could you show me a classroom? Do you use digital boards or you still use blackboards? Principal goes, we use digital board. We've been using it for 2 years. I'm like, oh, great, great. Principal, could I peep into the classroom just to see what the classroom looks like? I peep into the classroom. I see very well-dressed children. I actually see a couple of expatriates and I say, this is the school my children are coming. Did you notice that in all of the discussions that I had with principal, none had to do with education? And that's how we take our buying decisions, okay? So like I said earlier, not all schools sell education. Not all restaurants sell food, especially the fine dining restaurant these days. A lot of them sell ambience. So if you find out, especially in this part of the world, people take the pictures of their food before they eat it. What that means, friends, is that the look of food is probably more important than the taste of food. And that's why I started by saying not all restaurants sell food. A lot more sell ambience. The third key, friends, is knowledge of the customer. Where I come from in Nigeria, West Africa, I've come to realize that there's a difference between the customer and the consumer. And the way I like to put it is, the customer is the person that customs, the consumer is the person that consumes. So for instance, if we're talking about a crèche, who's the customer? The customer obviously is the parents. They're the ones that pay for the crèche. Who's the consumer? The consumer is the baby. Okay. So my thoughts would be that in the short run, as entrepreneurs, all of your marketing efforts should be focused on the customers. Why? They're the ones that make your payday possible. They are the ones that give you instant cash in return for the goods and services. However, in the long run, your focus has to be on the consumer. Why? They're the ones that bring you repeated demand. They are the ones that make your business stay into the long haul. Okay, I remember a friend was sharing with me a few weeks ago that his son, who had just started school, I think about 3 years old, on a Saturday morning, got dressed in his school uniform and was going to knock on his father's door that he wanted to go to school. I've also found out in this part of the world that a lot of times our children are responsible in taking the decisions about the type of schools they go to. Okay, so I'd like you to remember these 3 keys: knowledge of your environment, knowledge of your business, and knowledge of the customer. Friends, in the past 20 minutes or thereabouts, I have talked to you about creating opportunity in a world of limitations. Okay, I started off by saying in life there are 2 things that matter. That's the expectation and the reality. And everything that we do on a daily basis is to try and bring expectation as close as possible to reality. If expectation were equal to reality, friends, I'll be on a beach in Hawaii now sipping on pina colada. Okay, the second thing that I've shared with you is that change is constant. And because we realize that change is constant and there's nothing we can do about it, the best we can do is to repackage ourselves. Okay, and speaking about change, we talked about the process. Okay, and we started with immobilization and ended in acceptance. If we have accepted that change is constant, the shorter the period between immobilization and acceptance, the better for us as individuals. The final thing that I mentioned, friends, is that the anchor of opportunity is knowledge. And as entrepreneurs, we must remember the 3 key knowledge areas: knowledge of our environment, knowledge of our business, and knowledge of the customer. Thank you very much for listening.